So .NET 10 is just around the corner, and with that, validation in minimal APIs got a lot easier and simpler. And I would say let's just dive right in to see what is actually going on in .NET 10. So as you can see here, I have this little project here with Visual Studio 2026 Insiders, the preview edition in my case, and also release candidate 2 of .NET 10. But I think by the time of the official release, everything's still the same. Okay, so what we have here is a program CS using an in-memory database with Entity Framework. We have an orders database. We have some orders seeded here, also using Open API with Scala. And here come the minimal API endpoints. We got orders, so get orders, get all orders, post orders. This will be interesting because I want to check validation here with this thing and also deleting. So let's focus on posting orders. And by the way, you can get the complete code, link as always in the video description below. Let's just run this and have a look how Scala reacts to creating new orders, shall we? All right, here we are. And just to check, as we can see here, we can test receiving all orders and we get The Legend of Zelda, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, and so on. So far, so good. But what happens now if we post some orders or one order, let's say? We're using our create request or create order request a DTO. So only the product name and the quantity is given here. If you now hit send, everything works. But this is actually not correct, right? The user entered something or it was able to add something that is not actually correct. We have no product name here and the quantity is the default quantity. What if we set this to 0 here, hit send again, we have this result. So if we now go back to receiving all the orders, we test the request, send this again, then down here we have this, well, which is not correct. So how would we change that? Well, before in .NET 9, it would look like the following. For instance, in our post call, we check if the request product is null, as Copilot is suggesting now. We really have to get used to AI, right? Is null, or the quantity is below or equal 0. We could return a bad request, invalid order data, or we can do it more precise, right? We could say only for the product, we add a manual error message, let's say, where the product has to be given, or the product name is not correct, something is wrong here. And same with the quantity, we could say a quantity, or at least a quantity of 1 is required, right? So if you run this now, and now test this request with a null product, there we are. We get invalid order data and a 400 bad request. Now, this is very explicit. Actually, this is fine. You can do that. But if you have a big API, this can get really tedious, in particular if you're using this model again and again and again. So now with .NET 10, this became much, much easier. So let's check this out. By the way, if any of my videos have ever helped you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It really helps me keep making these tutorials, which in turn might help you becoming a better .NET developer. So please hit subscribe. It is free. Thank you so much. And if you want to get the source code of this tutorial together with a comprehensive written tutorial, I've got a new Substack newsletter. Link, as always, in the video description below. So let me just remove this stuff here and double check here. As you can see, target framework is .NET 10. So what we got now in the program CS is a beautiful new function, which is called builder services and then add validation. And this thing says in the tooltip, it adds the validation services to the specified iService collection. So this is nice, right? But this is not enough. What we also have to do is, or what we now can do, is in our create order requests. You see, this is now a class. Now in this class, we can add some attributes like this is required. And as Copilot is suggesting here, we say the minimum length shall be 3, but the reference is missing here. So let's add data annotations. This is exactly what we're now able to do. It's actually nothing new, not at all, right? When you used Entity Framework before, then you know what you can do with that. When you used forms in Blazor, for instance, you could do pretty much the same stuff here, but now this is also possible with minimal APIs. And regarding the quantity, we can do the same. We can say here, the range is 1 to 100. Why not? Let's just keep it like that and also say that this thing is definitely required. So you can see that, or you see that you can also chain these, you can add multiple attributes here. But there's one more thing you can do. If you like, you can also use records now. So instead of the class, we say this is now our record. And now I have to pay attention because the syntax can get a bit tricky when changing a class to a record. So we have the type, but no getter or setter, like that. And of course, the integer quantity, like that. And this should be it. Let's try to restart the application, or you just put everything into one line, of course. Seems to work. So we got our record here now. We have the program CS with add validation, and double check here. You see map posts. All right. Now let's see if this works. Restart the application. Again, let's test the post request. We hit send, and we see now we get a JSON, a standardized JSON, let's say, that we could use in a front end, right? Now it says one or more validation errors occurred. And now here for the product, actually, it says the product field is required. And what if I have a product that's just called one? Then you can see the field product must be a string. And it is mentioning the length of 3. And regarding the quantity now, let's say we have a test product. Quantity is 0. And now it says the field quantity must be between 1 and 100. All right, much better, right? But what if you want to disable validation now for a specific endpoint? Could be sometimes, right? In that case, there's also an easy fix. Just at the end of your minimal API endpoint, we have this function now, disable validation. And I think you can guess what this does. It disables validation for the specified endpoint. So let's save this, restart the application one more time, test this, hit send, and again, we got this result. So this is now possible with .NET 10. What do you think of that? Are you using minimal APIs? Would you use these kind of validations, or would you stick to the other way? Or are you using controllers, the traditional way that I also really like? So tell me in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope I see you next time. Take care.